This is 7 News.
Tonight, millimetres from death. An Armidale man stabbed by car thieves.
A Perth grandmother refused public housing as she battles to raise her daughter's children.
The spectacular laser and water show set to light up Perth on Australia Day.
And the girl from Woodvale celebrating history at the Australian Open.
From the studios of 7 Perth, Rick Ardon and Susannah Carr.
Good evening, in those reports shortly, but first details of a fire emergency that's unfolding tonight in the beachside suburb of Trigg. The fire has closed West Coast Highway. For the latest, let's cross live to Blake Johnson in the 7 News helicopter. And Blake, homes are now being evacuated.
That's right, Rick, they have been, because the fire has jumped West Coast Highway and is now within metres of homes on the northern side of the highway. If you're in the northern suburbs, you can probably see the big trail of smoke that's blowing across. The sea breeze is pushing it in a northeasterly direction, and that sea breeze is making the job for firefighters a lot harder because it's pushing embers a fair way in front of the fire. People in the area are asked to close their doors and windows, turn off air conditioners, and some homes have been evacuated. West Coast Highway near St Mary's School is closed. So too is the western end of Carrinup Road and a few streets in the middle there. From the air, it looks like the smoke has thinned a little bit, but firefighters say it is still burning out of control. Sue?
Thanks, Blake. Police say a man is lucky not to have died after he was stabbed in the throat walking home through Armidale overnight. It's believed the offender may have been responsible for a spate of crimes in the area shortly before the attack. Grant Taylor reports.
From what Kevin has told police, his attacker wanted to do him serious harm. As well as the wound to his neck, the 22-year-old's hands were slashed, wounds he suffered trying to protect himself as the knife was swung repeatedly at his throat. Kevin was walking home from the Armidale city centre when he ran into his attacker. Video from a nearby home shows the offender approaching him from out of the shadows. There was a short argument, then the knife came out.
Luckily for Kevin, the knife just nicked the cartilage surrounding his trachea a couple of millimetres deeper, and it could have opened up his airway.
Obviously, any injury towards the throat or the neck could become serious, so he is quite lucky.
The attacker may also have been responsible for a spate of crimes in Armidale around the same time. Shop windows were smashed in the Armidale city centre and 8 cars were broken into in a block of units. Daniel Hansen heard glass breaking and ran out to see the man bolt over a fence.
Pretty happy I didn't approach him, but it could have been me.
A $15,000 engagement ring was taken from Craig Kellett's wife's car. He doubts insurance will cover them.
You can get another one, but it's not going to be the same. It won't be the same ring.
Police are hoping security cameras in the Armidale CBD may have filmed the offender. Grant Taylor, 7 News.
And a Perth father is in hospital tonight after he was bashed unconscious walking home from a pub in Shoalwater near Rockingham. Alexis Donkin joins us live from Royal Perth, where the victim is in intensive care tonight. Alexis, what provoked the attack?
Well, Rick, police say it started out as a simple disagreement at the pub and then it turned violent. Now, the victim is 48-year-old father of one, Terence Kelm. Police have told me he was drinking with some mates at the George and Dragon Hotel on Safety Bay Road when 2 men started mouthing off. Now, those men were kicked out, but later, as Terence walked home, the men drove up to him, they got out of the car and they bashed him. Now, he was found unconscious on the road, bleeding. Now, a short time ago, police released these images of a man they'd like to speak to over the attack. Anyone that can help is asked to call Crime Stoppers. Now, it's not known if Terence Kelm will suffer any permanent injuries. Sue.
Thanks, Alexis. A Perth grandmother raising 3 grandchildren says she's desperate after the Department of Housing refused to find her a home. 2 other government departments say the 59-year-old deserves help, but housing officials won't review her case. Political editor Geof Parry reports.
At 59, Diane Robinson never expected to be raising 3 grandchildren. Twins aged 4.5 and a boy aged 9. She's had them for more than 2 years after her daughter couldn't cope. And they could soon be joined by another grandchild just 5 months old.
I don't want handouts. I don't want to bloodshot the government. I just want affordable housing so I can continue to provide the love, the care and the support that my grandchildren need.
Diane supports them all on a weekly $650 Centrelink payment and can't afford to rent privately. Both Child Protection and Health Departments have asked Housing to give Diane priority. Homes West says no.
This is a massive failure of government administration that impacts adversely a good woman just trying to look after her grandchildren. And I think the Minister and the government need to take some action and fix it.
And despite it costing taxpayers much more if the children were in state care, Homes West won't budge. Housing Minister Terry Redmond says while sympathetic, there's an extremely high demand for public housing in WA. There are 50,000 men, women and children on a list waiting for public housing. Further evidence how slowly the wheels turn in housing. 7 News first reported on these 49 Homes West apartments in September when they'd been empty for 6 months. They'd forgotten to install privacy screens and they're still empty a further 5 months later. Geof Parry, 7 News.
More complaints have emerged about Northam Hospital a day after 7 News revealed the case of grandmother Eva Dimer. The Barnett government is now promising to fast-track a review that will investigate the hospital's treatment of Eva and at least 4 other patients who died after being discharged. Kate Smithers reports.
After 5 deaths in 3 years, Health Minister Kim Hames says families have every reason to be hesitant about Northam Hospital.
You couldn't help but feel nervous.
17-year-old Andrew Allen, 12-day-old Lachlan Hughes and Janice Soulis died of renal failure in July.
My wife was just, as a human being, denied medical treatment, and that is why she's not here today.
Then there's the case of a 23-year-old nurse who died last month. And yesterday, Amanda Bennell told 7 News her mother was sent home from Northam Hospital with Panadol. Days later, Eva Dimer suffered a fatal brain aneurysm.
In my heart, I've always felt that more could have been done.
The Health Department will investigate all 5 deaths. Kay Edwards believes she was nearly the 6th death after she claims Northam Hospital misdiagnosed her broken neck.
I couldn't understand how they could miss that. How could they miss such a bad break?
Health Minister Kim Hames says the review of Northam Hospital will see if anything ties the 5 deaths together or if it's all a sad coincidence.
There's nothing yet to suggest that the doctors actually did anything wrong.
Kate Smithers, 7 News.
2 Australian men have appeared in court in Thailand accused of shooting tourists. One is charged with attempted murder, even though police allege the victims weren't the intended targets.
Heads held in their hands, Australians John Cohen and Adam Shea. Cohen, left of camera with the Freddy Krueger tattoo, is living his own nightmare now. He's accused of shooting these men, German tourists who police will allege simply got in the way. You see them taking shelter in shock, nursing their wounds. An employee also takes cover as the gunshots crack through the streets of Patong. And you can see 2 men running away immediately afterwards. Just minutes earlier, in the same shop where the Germans took refuge, Cohen and Shea were allegedly inquiring about a person they'd planned to shoot, a Danish man. Thai police say it was a dispute over a motorbike. Cohen is from Sydney, Shea from Tasmania. Police here specialising in bikie gangs say they vaguely recognise Cohen's name, but he's been overseas for some time now. Either way, they say it's not a good look.
We don't have any jurisdiction over there, but I would say that any spreading influence of bikie groups, whether it's interstate or overseas, is something we're concerned about. We're not happy about.
Cohen underwent a gun residue test. He's accused of pulling the trigger and is charged with attempted murder. Shea with conspiracy. Robbert, Ovadia, 7 News.
A Perth man arrested for swearing on a Tiger Airways flight to Singapore has been told he can leave the country. 45-year-old Bruce Griffiths initially had his passport confiscated and there were fears he could face a caning over allegations he was drunk and abusive to another passenger. Mr Griffiths has now had his passport handed back and given what Singapore police call a stern warning.
Police say a prospector missing in the goldfields for 11 days may still be alive. An SOS message has been found scrawled in the dirt about 15 kilometres from Michael Graham's campsite. Police had already searched the spot, but the landowner came back days later and found the markings.
It appears that he's obviously used the water from there. He's made a makeshift camp.
A plane has now joined the search, which is about 100 kilometres from Menzies.
Australian researchers are hoping a multi-million-dollar trial could help prevent diabetes in older men. In a world first, participants are injected with testosterone and they're looking for West Australian volunteers.
Ansi Bowmanis has been trying to lose weight for around 18 months.
I have trouble walking around the golf course, walking for any long distances.
He's already shed a few kilos, but wants to lose much more because he's at high risk of diabetes.
This is probably my trigger to do something.
He's hoping to take part in a world-first study where researchers are testing testosterone to see if it'll help fight fat and prevent type 2 diabetes in men who have higher than normal blood glucose levels.
You get obesity, that's what's causing the risk of diabetes, but that the low testosterone causes a feed-forward effect.
Scientists know when men put on weight, they lose testosterone and the motivation to exercise. Researchers are now looking for men in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth who are aged over 50 and carrying a bit of extra weight. They need around 1,500 participants. If you'd like more information, head to our website. Amelia, Mulcahy, 7 News.
We're being promised Saturday's Skyworks will be a show never before seen in Perth. This year's Australia Day Fireworks Spectacular will include a few surprises, including a new laser and water show. Amelia Broun reports.
We're being promised a laser water spectacular. Never seen in Perth.
Basically, we throw a whole lot of water up into the air and then we do a laser light show on it.
Today, final checks for the 35,000 fireworks, 9 tonnes of explosives worth $500,000.
We've got fireworks in the shape of koalas' heads, which is a new effect for the city of Perth.
This is usually one of the prime spots to watch the action, but works on Elizabeth Quay mean this year the fireworks have been moved east to Langley Park to give everyone the chance to watch the show. Road closures come into effect in Kings Park from 6 a.m, South Perth from 8 a.m, Riverside Drive from midday, and streets in the CBD will be closed from 7 p.m. And there'll be 2 designated zones for drinkers, one at Langley Park, another at Kings Park, but only between 6:30 and 8:45.
The person will be able to take in a 6-pack of beer, 6-pack of mixed drinks or 1 bottle of wine. The
30-minute Skyworks display kicks off at 8 p.m. Amelia Broun, 7 News.
Woodvale tennis player Casey Delacroix has a chance at an Australian Open final fairy tale. She's won her way through to the women's doubles final, which will take place tomorrow afternoon. Basil Zemplis is in Melbourne, where it's been a day of high excitement after a tough couple of years for Casey.
Good evening from Melbourne Park. It's a wonderful achievement by Casey. Together with 16-year-old Queenslander Ashley Barty, the duo have become the first Australian pair since 1977 to win through to the women's doubles final here at the Australian Open. And the victory had extra significance for Casey. She did it in front of her cousin Kayla, who's battled her entire life with cystic fibrosis.
Moments after clinching a spot in the women's doubles final, WA's Casey Delacroix revealed her inspiration. Her cousin Kayla, who had a lung transplant last year and has cystic fibrosis.
You got your cousin Kayla. I know how much this means to you.
Don't, Stumpsy. I'm so excited my cousin Kayla is here tonight. I didn't know if she would ever be able to watch me play again, let alone be here. So I love you.
Casey Delacroix burst onto the scene 5 years ago.
She's done it.
But had contemplated an early end to her career because of a serious foot injury. Kayla and the support from her nana Bev kept her going.
She hasn't got the best of eyes, my nan. I said, do you have one more match left in you? And yet she's got one more match left in her. So every year's precious, you know, with grandparents, and it's nice to have them around.
Delacroix and her 16-year-old partner Ashley Barty take on top-seeded Italians Roberta Vinci and Sarah Arani in the final tomorrow. Ryan Daniels, 7 News.
And that's all from the 7 Newsroom for now. We'll have updates a little later.
Enjoy your evening. Now here's Monica and Today Tonight.
Perth's #1, Australia's #1.